Three, two, and one. Well, hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. I got a word for you that you probably haven't thought of in a while. And it's a word that if we do this right today, this can change your life. And I don't often say that about words, but this one I feel is really powerful word. So I'm going to let it percolate for a minute before I share the word. I'm honored to be hanging out with Marty Hofmann from Marty Hofmann Personal Coaching. How are you today, my friend?
Good. Excellent.
Awesome. Well,
Thank
thanks for jumping on today. And why don't you tell us what the word is because you're going to unpack this for us. So tell us, how in the world did you get involved with this word?
Complacency is the word. I got involved in it because I realized that all my success was actually the opposite of complacency. It was intentionality. But that's a word that is too easily rolls off our tongues. We all want to be more intentional. We want to, the New Year's resolutions are to lose more weight, but it's not specific.
Right?
So, and kill complacency was just a better hook when we started doing this. So,
Yeah,
that's what we went after was let's kill complacency. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how it's the enemy of everything good we want in life.
that's
And
awesome. And we're going to talk about it for us personally. We're going to talk about it, what it does to a team. We're going to talk about what it does to a company. So kind of we have a lot of people listening right now, Marty, that are in corporate and they want to get to where we are, where we own our own businesses. What did that journey look like for you? I mean, were you in corporate America and then you decided to go in this, or I know you were in real estate and different things. So what did that journey look like for you to get where you are today?
I grew up in the Midwest, kind of like where you're located. I grew up in Iowa
Yep.
as a farm kid.
Okay.
Kind of always a hardworking entrepreneur type of mindset. Um, I actually went to college, a Bible college, and I was a youth pastor for 8 years.
Oh,
So
nice.
that would kind of be the only W-2 job. Oh, I've had other W-2 jobs, but that was my long-term
Sure.
employer of the church,
Yeah.
professional Christian job.
Yeah.
And after that, I was did HVAC for a bit, and then I
Okay.
really just leaned into entrepreneurship. Um, but definitely more if you're familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, his book Cash Flow Quadrant, definitely more in the square of DIY in it and business owner, but really not own a business. I owned a job. So
Okay.
that was me for many years until
Yeah.
it was a mindset shift and just
Yeah.
really started realizing the leverage of other people
Sure.
and their skills and abilities. So
Wow. Well, I got to ask this, and this is just for me, so no one else listened to this question. How in the world did you get uncalled from being a pastor? And like normally, once you're in, you're in. So, like, how did that go for you? I love that story. I'd love to hear about that.
I don't I would not say, Dave, that I'm on call at all. We felt like my wife and I felt like it was time for the church to step up. We I was telling my son about this recently. He's 20, and so he's has all
Yeah.
these questions now. And he's like,
Yeah.
"What happened?" And I said, "What
Yeah.
happened is we realized that the church was treating us like an employee,
Okay.
and rather than people serving, everything was getting dumped on us. And we
Oh,
just
wow.
realized that it wasn't organic and it wasn't
Sure.
the way it was intended to be. And we didn't want to continue to be the problem. And so we're still very much involved in church,
Sure.
but it's serving from a non-paid unprofessional position, if you will.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with it. I just didn't want to be a problem. From what we could see is there was so much being put on us that was
Sure. Yeah.
because we were the paid
Wow.
people.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, so now you are more in control of your future, more in control of your schedule, more in control of different things that are going on. Obviously, a man's mind plans his ways and the Lord directs his steps. So, we have that great opportunity there. I just love the fact that you were in a, paid spot and it's like, I think I can do this in a different way. And again, there's no right way or wrong way. We always tell people listening, there's no right way or, Marty's way isn't right. And so follow after that. Was there a long transition for you guys, or did you just wake up one day and decide, you know what, I need to do something else? Or was it a longer kind of transition for you?
I had three kids at the time, so it was not a wake up and change. You're a
Geez.
dad, you have responsibilities. We
Yeah.
definitely kind of put some feelers out there, and we moved from Montana at the time back to Oklahoma. My wife is from Oklahoma. So
Okay.
it was not an overnight decision at all. Um,
Okay.
and really, if I could, I mean, just to be honest, the main
Yeah.
reason we moved to Oklahoma is my wife's dad had cancer,
Uh,
and we wanted to spend his we didn't have want to have regrets with that. So we moved
yeah, for
back
sure.
really to Oklahoma to invest in him. Um,
Great. Yeah. What a great thing to invest in other people, way better than anything else that we can definitely invest in this world. So I love that piece. How did you kind of fast forward that for us again, Marty, if you can? So you're on this spot where you're trying different things. How did you land on complacency? That must have been like an aha moment somewhere along the line. Like it's like, oh my gosh, this is like totally me. Was that like that, or was it more gradual, kind of like your transition out of the church?
I think the thing that's hard about complacency is it's like a small drift, and we don't
Okay,
recognize it and don't see it.
sure.
And so it wasn't that I recognized complacency in my life, it's that I recognized intentionality
Okay,
and realizing where reverse engineering a plan and following the plan, doing the thing, what it led to. So so for those in corporate America, I mean, you
yeah,
mentioned it, that maybe want to break free, maybe want to be the entrepreneur and have their own business.
sure.
Like you just reverse engineer that, and you show up every day and you do the step. You maybe get a bank account, you reach out to friends and family, you XYZ, whatever you're trying to build on that business. Like there's
Yeah,
things you could do today, intentional things that would lead to that entrepreneur journey for you down the road. But
yeah,
if you don't do it, it's that complacency. Like we know in the back of our head we need to do these things. It leads to a better life. We think it leads to a better life. But if we don't do it, it's simply complacency. And that's what I realized was the power of intentionality and the compound effect of that is is what moves mountains. And so
yeah. Wow.
that's what it's about. It's just complacency is the enemy of that. And so
Yeah.
we want to slay the enemy.
Well, and I'm just curious for people listening right now, Marty, if there was like one thing that they would start with. So if somebody realizes that complacency is kind of, taken over, or it's just intertwined a little bit. I'm guessing there's different levels of
Sure.
complacency. But once somebody identifies that in their life, like what's like where do they start? I mean, because it's like, okay, I've identified it, that's part of the issue, but now I have to kind of do something. What's like that something next step that you suggest people do?
It depends on what they're pursuing. I just wrote a book, and I talk about the 7F framework: faith, family, fitness, finance, uh, friends, future self, and fun.
Yeah,
And so if you're using those as your guide, like what I'm going to do for my finances is going to look a lot different than what I'm going to do for, say, fitness. But it is going to have to do with something that's trackable and something that can be measured and something you can do every day. But I would also add to it, Dave, like let's make it simple. Like
yeah,
instead of it being I'm going to start running 5 miles every day, like let's make it
right,
let's put on the gym shoes, or let's get a gym membership
sure.
and dumb it down, make it easy, and and then start that thing.
And we talk a lot about course corrections. Small little course
Mhm.
corrections seem to be way more successful and way easier and way more practical. Again, I think it's funny, January 2nd, when we go to the gym, it's like packed, and by the 17th or the 20th, it's kind of back to normal. There's maybe a few stragglers that made it, but, there's a lot of people that they have this big, grandiose plan. And like you said, it's really hard to be intentional when you have, like, if I looked at those 7 F's, Marty, and I started, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk about my faith and my family, fitness, finance, friends, future, and fun. If I tried to just look at that as a whole, I would get very stressed like instantly.
Sure.
So is that what you notice in your coaching that you see people they want to come with, I mean, you know how they say you bite, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. Is that kind of what your thought process is let's start with some small simple things to get some momentum?
For sure. And Dave, I would say you would probably start with just one F. You would pick
Yeah,
one, you would maybe pick two, and you'd build momentum in those. Fitness is kind of a fun one because it's easy to measure
yeah,
and it adds so much confidence to somebody. So you might start with that.
sure.
And we might say, hey, let's see if we can walk around the block tonight. And then we just add to that day in, day out, and it gets
Yeah,
bigger. And as you get confidence with your fitness, well, now we can add into it finances or um, faith or whatever. So,
sure.
but you're exactly right. It's so overwhelming for somebody to, and even going back to the entrepreneur, the corporate America person that wants to be an entrepreneur, it's
Yeah,
overwhelming to them for them to think about running a business with 50 employees. But if they reverse engineered and make it small and they realize that tomorrow I need to go open up a bank account or I
yeah,
need to find a product, like
yeah,
that's an easy step. And what happens is we do these easy things. Maybe it's maybe it's walk a block for fitness. We can eventually run that marathon because we just showed up every day consistently and did the thing.
sure,
So I agree with you 100%. Like, yeah, start small. And as you build confidence in that small daily grind, like it will just naturally, it should be very natural for you to want to do more and
sure.
grow into that
Or
better
do you
person.
think yeah, do you think that there's a lot of people that like they walked around the block, let's say to your point, and they should be, ideally, they would be like happy and content and pleased and excited. But I feel like there's part of us that's like, what? Only a block, only, you only did this. I speak around the country and I get these responses back. And if it's a 1 to 5 rate your speaker, and I get all these fives and I get 1 4, I like focus on the 4 rather than look at all these fives that I did a great job. I look at this one like, what the heck did I do wrong? Is that kind of, human nature for us to not be like able to reward ourselves for starting that simple spot? Because if you've never walked around the block and you did that, that's got to be huge. I mean, I remember running my first triathlon and I was like so excited, but yet I was like, bummed about the time or whatever back in the day. Is that pretty common, do you think, Marty, for people to still not be happy with what they've done after they start this journey?
It is, Dave, but it has to do with how we measure success. And so often, to your point earlier about gym memberships dying off, so
Yeah,
often we have this idea of perfection. And if we don't hit it, which nobody ever hits it, right?
yeah, yep,
Even someone like Elon Musk, who's done some crazy awesome things, probably has bigger aspiring goals that he won't hit.
right.
But the problem is we measure against what we didn't hit instead of
Gotcha.
looking backwards at what we did accomplish. So
Sure.
you could measure back and say, well, I got to be on the stage, and 26 people gave me a 5,
Right,
and I mean, grade yourself. One person gave you a 4. That's still like a 96% passing rate or something. I don't
right,
know.
right. Yep.
But we do, for some reason, we do hyper focus on the negative side. And so
Yeah,
it is a mindset shift to gauge ourselves differently and to look at it from what I did accomplish rather than what I not accomplish.
sure. And I'm assuming then that's Marty where you come in as a personal coach to try to help combat that because I know how easy it is to spin out of control. It's like, you only went around the block once and your neighbor just ran 5 miles. He ran past you like 5 times or whatever. It's like, forget it. This is dumb. I'm not doing it. I can see how that can spiral. And that to me is a great spot where you come in and are like helping people along the way. Is that where you guys come in as a personal coach? Is that part of what you do as in that scenario?
Yes, and we also talk about comparison because comparison is a thief of joy. And so
Yeah,
if I'm comparing myself to the neighbor, then I'm never going to be happy with myself. Well, maybe the neighbor's a loser, but you know what I mean. So
Yeah, no, absolutely.
we don't want to compare because you know Elon Musk is out there and Elon Musk is killing it as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
And if I compare myself to him, man, I got nothing going on. But
yeah,
if I do the best I can with my gifts and abilities and network, then I'm going to be happy because I look back at what I was accomplished rather than forward to what was probably unattainable in the first place.
sure. Wow, that's pretty cool. I love that. Comparison is the thief of joy. I mean, just think about that right now for you listening, whether it's personally or professionally. If you're comparing to your neighbor company, you're comparing to anybody if you own a business. I mean, we're already as business owners, Marty, we're already in such a minority to begin with that we've successfully been able to do this. So, it's so crazy to me that I don't know again if it's the human brain or what, but it's like there's something inside that's just, yeah, but you still aren't where you need to be. And it's like that funny commercial a long time ago is, congratulations, you've reached the end of the internet. We'll never get to your point. We'll never get to perfection. So it's like, what's good enough? I ask my clients coaching a lot. I'm like, when is enough enough? Whether it's financially, whether it's positionally, whatever that is, there's got to be a spot where it's like, man, when is enough enough? Do you run into a lot of people that are just always discontent, I guess is the best word that I can think of?
It is. You're 100% true. And I think as a coach, what we have to do is we have to early on have them write their number down. You
Yeah.
know, and what number will you be satisfied? Because what happens to us as we grow is we realize we have more potential. But
Mm,
if we will put our number down, whether it's a fitness goal or a finance goal or
yeah.
maybe fate, whatever. I mean, plug it in, put your number down early on. Um, as we grow, we always aspire for more, and that's when we're discontent and we say just a little more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we
Wow.
never stop, and then we live with regret. But if we'll
Yeah.
label our number early on, open the envelope 3 years later, we'll actually see that we probably hit it and we
Yeah.
probably succeeded it. So I think that's the key part there is write your number down,
Yeah.
write your metric down and remember that you hit it and celebrate
Yeah.
that.
I feel like you almost, if you do hit it though, I almost feel like, excuse me, like what's next? Okay, so you open that envelope up and whatever it is, your weight, it can be a financial goal, whatever, behavior goal, whatever it is that you write in there, there's got to be kind of like that this is it. I mean, do you run into people that once they hit their goal, they want to create a new goal, a higher goal, or do we have to learn to be just content where we're at? How do you kind of coach somebody that hits that goal?
Uh, there's a book in the Bible called Ecclesiastes and
Sure.
Song of Solomon. Solomon wrote that, and Solomon, in many ways, had done all this, right? He
Yeah.
had the women, he had the riches, he had the wisdom, he had the kingdom, like he had all the stuff. And
Yep.
the key word in Ecclesiastes is vanities of vanities. And I can tell you from my own personal story, when I was
Sure.
29, I bought a house. It was 2010, bottom of the crash,
Yeah.
and I paid cash for it. And I had
Oh,
aspired my whole life to be debt free.
sure.
And I was debt free and I felt like that. Like, is this it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I felt empty and hollow. I mean, just
Sure.
exactly to your point, to Solomon's
Yeah.
point, like,
Yeah.
is this it? And I think that God gives us that so that we
Sure.
won't stay in that limited mindset because we have the capacity in our brains to think and grow and become amazing humans,
Yeah.
but our mind can only comprehend so many steps forward. And so
Sure.
when we hit those steps, yes, we want to do more where we feel discontent, but that discontentment can lead to a greater person for us if we lean into it.
Wow. Well, and I tell you, Solomon was one of the wisest men alive, but it's still weird to me to have, I think the numbers were 300 wives and 600 concubines. So it's like, holy cow, that guy he was busy with all the stuff going on, but
I
it's
can't
like,
even imagine.
right? Exactly. It's like, way over my pay grade. But I think that it's interesting because I always like to think about what if you attain what you're trying to get, because like you said, you paid for that house and then it was like, it didn't feel like this big grand, oh my gosh, a super huge party and you've arrived and blah blah blah. So I love that. I love that analogy. So um, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk through this from a business perspective because there's some workplace things that I think we can unpack and help the listener with. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. Honored to be hanging out with Marty Hofmann from Marty Hofmann Personal Coaching, and we are talking about ways to kill complacency. He's got a great book called Kill Complacency, a podcast called Kill Complacency. So check that out where you get your podcasts. And is the book on Amazon for
It is
people
on
that want to
Amazon.
jump on
Yep.
there, Marty? Awesome. And I saw that you had some cool merch that's on your website, so we'll chat about that in a minute. But I want to ask this question because I think that the workplace is a spot. Like I started to think about like other words for complacency in the workplace, and a couple of them that came to my mind were like people that are on autopilot. Or people that kind of tune out, or people that really don't have to even use their brain. There's not a lot of thought going on. Do you run into a lot of those people or those people that are in that spot in their career where they are, I'll use the word autopilot, where they just kind of show up and go through the motions? Do you run into those people quite a bit?
Yes, and I think that all of us can be those people, um, because we love comfort and we love what we're used to and um, what's easy. And
Yeah,
so you have to fight that if you want to be a better human being, if you want to
sure.
grow.
Yeah.
The word I use a lot is drift. Um,
Okay.
and I would have got that from Napoleon Hill. I mean, that was an influential book for me. Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil.
Mm,
It's sort of like a podcast
okay.
interview where Napoleon Hill is interviewing Satan, and Satan
Okay.
is giving all these tips on what he does
Oh,
to influence people. But the main thing he comes back to is drift. And
gotcha.
if he can get the schools to drift, if he can get the church to drift, if he can get mom and dad to drift, if he can get the employee to drift, like then he'll control them by XYZ. It's a
Yeah.
powerful book. It's an old
Wow.
book, but
Sure.
really powerful. But I would say yes, Dave. We all struggle with it, and it is because it's what we want is comfort, and it's
Yeah.
the message of our culture is comfort, comfort, comfort. So we try to find the easy. We try to find the autopilot. We try to find the job that we can show up and get paid and do as little as possible. you
Sure.
know,
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. Wow. Well, and I think, I mean, drift is like such a powerful word when you really start thinking about it in your faith and your family and your fitness. I mean, just each one of those has its own drift that can really cause some major concern moving forward. When I wrote my book, Growing on Purpose, I wrote that because I run into a lot of people that are growing by mistake. And I could have used intentionality instead of purpose because there's just a lot of people. You ask somebody, hey, how did you get to where you are? And they're look like, I don't know. And I'm like, if you had to replicate that, would you do it? They're like, I don't know how I got here. So from a business growth perspective or a personal perspective, I'm assuming if you can kind of map out or track in your brain, if you know how you got there, you can then, if you got there successfully where you killed complacency in your faith, then you can move into your family, like you said
sure.
before. You take kind of one at a time. Are they kind of like compartments where you open one, work on it, close it, open another? Is that how you see it best, or how do you do all seven once you get rolling on this?
the way you do all seven is you schedule them. So,
Okay.
you know, fitness, there's going to be a time every day set aside where a person works on their fitness. Family as well. Like you got to put the phone away and you got to
Yeah.
engage the family. And maybe it's supper. Maybe you're having supper together and
Yeah.
that's your time every week. Or maybe it's a
Sure.
date night. But you have to put these things on the calendar. Finances, like you need to work a job, but maybe you need to look at your um, financial spreadsheet, like where you at, and
Yeah.
maybe that's an annual thing, maybe that's a quarterly thing. But if we're never looking at that, if we're never compartmentalizing time to study it,
Yeah.
we're not going to do any better. Um, Getting on a scale is an easy way to check into your fitness. Like,
Sure.
what's the weight? And it takes 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But I do
Yeah.
think that we for sure, like throughout the day, I'm getting in and I'm getting out, but I need to put all of them on the calendar. Otherwise, Dave, I as an entrepreneur, I run my whole life on finances,
Yeah.
and I get to be 55, 60, and I don't know my kids, and my wife's divorced me, and it's because I never focused on the F of family, and
Right.
and I was always on finances. So that's why I think
Sure.
it's important to try to do all of them, but we can't do them all at the same time, but we have to schedule it, put it on the calendar.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. Well, and it must be hard. I mean, Paul said to be content in all things. So it's got to be hard to like know that like how do you for you personally, Marty, like for your family is do you have like X number of minutes or hours a day or a week that you hang out with your family? How do you not make it feel like it's going through the motions? How do you get that to where it's like it's really what you want, even though, you may not want to work out today, but you still do it, right? How do you like, is there times where it's like, I don't want to hang out with these kids, but I have to, and hopefully they're not listening. But I'm just curious, how do you like get your heart into something that it's not necessarily into, I guess is the easiest way to put it.
I, I first off, I think first, yes, there are times where we just do the thing because it's we reverse engineered the goal and it's part of the goal.
Okay.
So whatever it is, maybe it's your
Yeah.
faith and reading your Bible, maybe it's that date night. Like I don't really want to
Sure.
go date night tonight, but I know this is
Yeah.
important toward reaching my goal.
Right.
For sure, there's going to be times where you don't feel like doing it, but we do it anyway. It's our
Okay.
identity. And that's kind of what happens because if I don't, Dave, what happens is I lean into complacency and that skipped workout becomes 2 days skipped and 3 days
Yeah.
skipped. And that skipped date night becomes a month, becomes a year. And pretty
Sure.
soon we've drifted and we don't
Right.
recognize each other. We're
Yeah.
we're roommates, but we're not lovers.
Sure.
And so it
Wow,
is.
that's powerful.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you have to fight it. You have to be intentional. You have to put it on the calendar, or we drift. And
Yeah.
the acronym we use for drift is default, results, in forgotten time. And and when you drift, that's what happens. You just go into default mode, and then time passes, and
Yeah.
and you don't have it anymore. So
What does drift look like in for future, Marty? Because I feel like part of, so many people I run into do this 50 weeks a year thing. They live for these 2 weeks of vacation. This is all kind of like, give and take, but 50 weeks they work, they live for these 2 weeks a year. They stand in line at Disney and they just complain about that for the whole 2 weeks. I mean, how do you get like, intentional about your future and how do you really eliminate that complacency? That to me, especially if you're not an entrepreneur, I mean, we're kind of forced into it because, if we don't work, we don't eat, so to speak. So we don't, it's kind of forced on us. But for somebody that could go on autopilot, tune out, fly under the radar, like you mentioned, how do you like really be intentional with your future? What have you learned in that?
I think your future is for me, it's a lot of learning. So if somebody wants to have, well, something I would talk about with future self would be write your obituary down. What do you want it to say about you? And if it says things that you are not now,
Yeah.
then reverse engineer your life to do those things.
Wow.
So if you want to be known as the guy that was a giver, you're probably going to have to go get a different job where you can supplement the giving because you just want to give money away or
Yeah.
opportunities. Um, so that's what keeps us growing is having that hope, reverse engineering our life and creating that hope, creating that dream so that
Yeah.
we will continue to learn and grow and improve our future self. Because otherwise it's like Groundhog Day, right? And it's same old day in, day
Yeah.
out, and nothing changes.
And some people feel like that's just it, right? This is it. I mean, this is it. And I feel I feel really bad for those type of people that just settle for that. They kind of play that victim role rather than being a victor, and it's like it's hard. How do you like encourage them? Because that's one of the things I think I struggle with when I run into somebody that's got that victim mentality. I don't want to come over the top and be like holier than thou type. I want to really empathize with them, but in order to empathize with them, you almost have to like agree with them and be like, "Oh, it's okay." How do you work through that with people? That's got to be really tough.
It's really hard because they don't see it.
Yeah,
And and I think if I was to give your listeners a tip, it would be you got to label it. So if if that's where they are and they're struggling with having vision for the future and staying mediocre and staying in the rut, then label it. Label how you feel and then
yeah.
make the improvements and adjust.
So
But it's
what would
really
be what would be an example of labeling before you finish? Because I just don't want people to lose that spot. What's an example of labeling that? What do you mean by that?
well, let's throw my marriage into this.
Okay.
If
Sorry, Mrs. Hoffman. Sorry about this.
Ginger's her name. Um, Personal story from me. I mean, she came to me at one point and said, "Hey, I'm done. This isn't working." And it was because I was out providing, but I wasn't present and I
Yeah,
wasn't meeting her emotional needs.
sure.
And so I had to label that and I had to realize that I'm not I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for her.
Yeah.
And and then I had to make change. But what it started with that label, Dave, of saying, I need to change. I've missed the mark here and
Okay.
I need to be a better husband to Ginger. And
Yeah.
then and then we reverse engineer it. We start doing date nights, we start doing conferences, we start reading books together, we start going for walks, we start holding hands. We do these things that we did initially, but we've
Right.
drifted because we just got lukewarm and drift away from each
Yeah.
other.
Wow, that's really awesome. And thanks, Ginger, for letting him be vulnerable if you're listening today. But I think that that's so common right there. What you said is so common for people. They get into a rut, they get into a routine, and before you know it, if somebody and you could have easily said when Ginger came to you with that, you could have easily gave her the three words in return and say, suck it up, deal with it. And it's like, wow, I love that you're taking ownership. And I think that's once you realize that complacency is in your life and you take ownership, it's super easy to blame others, right? Especially if you're working in corporate. I wouldn't be complacent if they X, whatever that is, right? So it's easy to blame the government, blame anything that you want to blame. So I think taking that responsibility and that ownership is really powerful for everybody listening. Um, and labeling that is a great tip for today. So I love that piece. A couple questions as we start to land the plane today, Marty. Some people like, how do they sabotage their own growth without realizing it? To me, like you mentioned before, they don't even know they're doing it. That to me is a blind spot that a lot of people have. And how do you help them through that? Or what do you feel is like, how do they sabotage their own growth? Have you found anything that, to help that type of person?
The biggest way that we sabotage our growth is by not measuring it, by not
Okay.
checking in. So So I like the 7F framework, but if whatever you use, like
Yeah,
somehow make it measurable, somehow have a gauge to be able to say, am I better than I was a year ago, six months
sure.
ago? And that's why New Year's Eve, New Year's resolutions are so powerful. It's
Yeah,
because we do that. Now, I agree with you. A lot of people give up on those 3, 4 weeks in, but at least they had a time where they sat down and they said, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going
yeah,
to I'm going to do XYZ this year. And
right,
they had a measurement. And that's an opportunity for them to no longer sabotage, because that's what
sure,
happens between Thanksgiving and New Year's, right? Is we
right.
just eat all this food and we sabotage our bodies
Yeah,
because we know there's a day coming where we're going to sit down
yep.
and we're going to make it measurable.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's funny. At least we hope that there's that day that comes. There's people now, it's just like that doesn't matter anymore. But I mean, I think the blind spot thing is really powerful. And again, hopefully, if someone's listening and they can't afford or don't see a need for a personal coach like Marty, I feel like there's somebody in your life because you hopefully you have somebody accountability partner of some kind
yes.
and I mean the research shows that most people they don't have goals, and for the people that do have them and write them down, it's like astronomically way higher likelihood that you're going to accomplish them, number one. But even higher is telling somebody about them. Like when I tell people that I'm doing this, it's like, wow, now they're hopefully if they're good friends, they're going to say, hey, how you doing on that. And it's like that accountability. It doesn't have to be this high pressure thing. If you're going to write your first book or you're going to lose your 10 pounds or whatever it is, I mean, how do you do that for yourself, Marty? Who kind of helps you keep you accountable? Do you have people in your world that help you along the way?
I do. I have number one, I have a habit tracker. So every day I track habits.
Okay.
Um, and number two, on Mondays, we call it Pod 31. And we get on a Zoom call. There's six of us, men,
Okay.
entrepreneurs, and we talk about our weekly commitments that we score ourselves. And
Okay.
and for 5 minutes we each talk, and then the other guys get to blast them with questions. But
Sure.
yeah, we I do this every week, every Monday at 12:30. And to your point, yeah, I absolutely need it because
Yeah.
there's days I would have not done the thing, but because I know I'm going
Right.
to get in front of these guys and they're going to ask me hard questions,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Right.
It's
Yep.
it's powerful. So I
Yeah.
agree 100%. Like, yeah, find an accountability partner, um, and just ask somebody. And it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be hard. It doesn't have to be profound. It doesn't have to be. I mean, it cost me an hour of my week, but
Sure.
I add value to those guys, and they add it back to me, and it
Yeah.
has by far been a 10x investment on my time.
Wow. That's awesome. And I'm guessing it makes you feel better as a human being to think that you just help some other individuals on that call. That's got to be powerful as well as them helping you. So again, for someone listening, it doesn't have to be like Marty said, it doesn't have to be this big monstrosity of a deal. We always talk about the fact that if I live in Milwaukee and we have a house that we live part-time in San Diego. So if we take off out of the Milwaukee airport and the pilot decides to do a 2-degree course correction, which no one can feel, you end up in LA, which is a painful 2.5 hour drive in 7 lanes of traffic from LA to San Diego. It is not fun. But that was that little course correction that nobody really felt, but yet it had this massive result at the end. So I think that sometimes we're always looking for secret sauce, magic bullet. We're looking for something that, like, hey, just do this. And, I laugh now, these new drugs that you can just take a shot and you lose all this weight. It's like, holy cow, whatever happened to just like walking and not eating 14 donuts? I don't know if that, again, I don't want to offend anybody. I just know for myself, I just have to be constantly watching the 10,000 steps a day and I have to watch what I eat, and that sure helps a ton. So, I mean, small course corrections, just like you said, is so powerful. So,
But
thanks for,
the thing you do well, Dave, is you're mindful of it. And that's the trap is people
yeah,
just tune out and they're no
yeah,
longer mindful of their marriage or their finances. or their faith and they're just
Yep.
drifting. But the thing
Right.
that you're doing well is you're mindful of it. So
Yeah.
that now if you got 6,000 steps, you're maybe going to make it up tomorrow or
Yep.
you're going to eat a little healthier. But
Boy, when I get at 6,000 steps and it's 7 o'clock at night, I'm like, oh, crud, this isn't going to end well. So I'm out, especially in the winter. I mean, I would be different if
in
we were in warm
Milwaukee, that's
climate
rough.
all year, but it's like, my gosh, we have like 9 months of snow. And I'm like, do I really want to go outside? So I try the elliptical. I try walking around the house, which my wife hates, but it's like, I got to get to 10,000, and it's like, you don't know how many trips through the house I've made over the years to get that. But I think you,
Cool.
like you said, being intentional and really understanding it and being aware of that is really helpful. And again, that's why a blind spot's something that you see about me, Marty, that I don't see. And that's where I think that, iron sharpens iron is such a powerful spot because you can say, hey, Dave, do you know you're doing this? And now it's like there, and I got a decision. I can blame you for it, or I can go, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was doing that. Thanks for pointing that out, and I got to get better. So that's so cool. One last thing, and I'm gonna let you go. Tell me about your podcast and fill us in on how we can get involved in listening to that.
The podcast is called Kill Complacency. It came before the book. And I just wanted to interview people. My goal was to interview people so that the listeners could hear people's examples of
Sure.
intentionality, of killing
Yeah.
complacency. And they could say, hey, I can do these things. If Marty can do this, if Dave can do this, then I can do this. So it's really just try to make it empowering to the listener that they can do the things and they can live the life that the ordinary guy on the other end of the mic is doing to
Yeah.
live the extraordinary life.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, for the listener, again, consider looking into the Kill Complacency podcast. For people, Marty, that want to learn more about you, maybe we covered something that they want to ask you a question, they want to connect with you. What's the best way for people to find you?
You go to we have a new webpage, killcomplacency.com. They could go there,
Okay.
reach out. We've got some tools there. There's a kind of a fun test, kind of like a personality test, but
Okay.
it's for the 7 F's. It's about like a circle of life type of test.
Ooh, cool.
So yeah.
Awesome. And they can take that for free, or is there a cost to
Yeah,
it?
it's free. Yeah, you just fill it
Okay.
out and it'll email it back and it'll give you some tips on things to do if your finances are low or your marriage is low, whatever. So yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So go to killcomplacency.com and take that. I saw you had some merch where you had some fun shirts and hats and different things. So that's pretty cool. So Marty, thanks for hanging out with us. This has really been fun and powerful. And again, for the listener, I just want to encourage you rather than jump into your next podcast or your next activity, take a second and really kind of ponder what you just heard because this can change your life if you're really serious about it. And whether it's your faith, your family, your fitness, your finances, your friends, your future. We didn't even talk about fun. So we'll have to get you back and talk about fun. But these are things that are going on every day in your life. And even if you don't want them to go on, they're going on. So it's like, why not address them? Why not be more intentional with them? And then again, maybe start by going to killcomplacency.com and take that assessment and see where you are. And if nothing else, get some fun and good ways to get more intentional with that. So thanks, Marty, so much for hanging out with us today. This has been fantastic. And I'm going to have to check that out myself. So you'll see my name in there. And just don't tell anybody if I failed, okay? Because I don't want to, after all this, I don't want to fail this thing. So now I'm nervous. So, but
No, you'll be good.
I'm sure I'll do good. So again,
It's all
thanks.
for you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. And again, I can't wait to keep learning from you.
Thank you.